Well, hello and welcome to today's stream. I am Patrick Nairn, and it's a pleasure to be here to share with you something which bothers my coaches a lot, and that is something which you may struggle with from time to time. And it's certainly something that I think almost every person today who has made any kind of success in public speaking had to start here. And it's really something to do with how do we become confident and bold when we're speaking to what for us might be a tiny audience. You know, something that scares a lot of experts is not just the size of an audience being massive, but sometimes they are really worried about that audience being a tiny audience. And the word tiny can mean a lot of different contexts, because if you're a speaker that's used to, say, speaking to 10,000 people on a regular basis, then tiny for you could be an audience of 500, whereas a person who's only confident in speaking to an audience of five or six would find 500 to be an absolutely staggering number, because it's all about context, right? And everything in terms of the number of people is relative. So just quickly, a little thing about me first. If you've never seen any of my lives before, any of my videos, I'm Patrick Nairn, and I help female coaches who are in their 50s to look good and sound great online, because they want to sell a high ticket offer. They want to very quickly connect with their audience, and they want to speak to their audience so that they feel understood as an audience, and that the solutions that these coaches offer become a natural next choice for them to make, because they want to move forward with someone who they connect with. And so I help my female coaches, mainly in their 50s, to get really confident with great lighting online, good, high quality sound, which sounds like they're in the room. And then they can use the technology to work their presentation so that it looks good, sounds really, really professional, and gives them that overall confidence that they can help and shape other people's lives for the better. So getting back to our conversation for today, which is about speaking to a small or tiny audience. And my question to you is the fact that you probably don't have a huge following and you don't see thousands of people, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people in your topic space, that you end up thinking, well, maybe there's no one that wants to hear this topic. And so such a small niche group that it's not really worth me getting up and putting the effort into speaking to those people. They're so few and far between. I don't know if there's really anybody out there who wants to know what I have to say. Or maybe it's just down to my family and close friends. Those are the only people who, out of kindness or even pity, might be listening to me. So let me just share with you that one of the things that I and every other speaker, every other person who has done this, whether you do it for the first time in your life or you've done it for many, many years, there's always that concern in the back of your mind. What if there's no one who wants to hear? What if the people don't really want to pay attention and they're feeling forced to attend? And when I've been involved in corporate training and been doing this for a number of years now, that's one of the first things that you might be thinking, well, yeah, that you don't have that problem, Patrick. People are always going to turn up. They'll turn up, but they don't always want to be there. They've got other things, other pressures in their job to fulfill and to deliver. And so training, learning, and being involved in something that doesn't directly contribute to their output can actually feel like it's in the way, even though what we're doing is what's going to liberate them and help them to move forward in their career. Because learning is one of those things that we all need. We all need to get better at learning. But sometimes it just feels like it's too much, and it's in never in a convenient time. So speaking to a small audience can actually be a challenge on the side of whether you're speaking from social media or if you're speaking to an audience who you expect to actually turn up there. Because ultimately there's a lot of exposure with a small audience, because you can't really hide. You get to see everybody. You could look almost everyone in the eye at this point, and that real connection and doubt can come forward a lot. And I've heard many speakers who are very popular today talk about the very early days of when they started speaking to audiences. They would hire a room for 500 and then only 5 people would turn up. It hurts the ego, right? It hits the ego hard. And we begin to operate not from a place of service, but from a place of ego, because it causes us to feel fearful. What if? And we start to put a number of different statements after that. Well, let's just start off with what this is all about today. This is about a simple word, and it's the word bold. Now, many of us are used to the word bold. When we are typing, we see bold as opposed to a normal text, and the bold means it's a bit wider, a bit more prominent, a bit more visible, right? A bit more available and immediate. But really, what bold is usually associated with, especially when it's about a person, a human being, or an action, it's something usually that we talk about is courageous, valor. Someone who is really taking a risk and moving forward in fear. But I want to scale that back a little bit, because very often, if we think about it today, what's the worst thing that most speakers are going to engage? And I do mean most speakers here. I'm not talking about every single speaker. I'm talking about the vast majority of us, if we're speaking online. Well, the worst thing that can happen for many of us is you get a bit of trolling, right? For other people, someone may just disagree with you. For some speakers yet, it may be that it sparks off a debate and you say something and people start to disagree and argue with you. But let's face it, when we speak up about the things that are important to us, the action of doing that may not feel to us in that moment that is courageous. And we might not feel courageous, and we might think this is not really the right context, Patrick. So I'm going to ask you to just put the context of bold as willingness. Let's start with that being the definition that we use. Are you willing to put yourself forward to speak about something that really matters to you, especially if it's going to serve a small number of people? So just start with willingness. Am I willing? Are you willing as a coach to speak to just a small audience? And I don't mean, are you going to start off by speaking to a small audience? Because that's more than likely going to be the case, I guarantee you. I'm talking here about, are you allowing the fact that you don't see a large audience stop you from speaking at all? Those are the people who I'm addressing today. So let's find within ourselves, let's search ourselves and be honest, and to really dig down to the core. Am I stopping myself from putting my presentations out there, whether live or recorded? Am I stopping myself because I just don't think that I'm going to make the impact that I really want to make? So if we start there and we move through and ask ourselves just a couple of really simple things. What is actually stopping you? What could be stopping you? Well, the first thing that I think is likely to be stopping you is what we often refer to as self-belief, or a bit of confidence in your subject or your topic, because we all look at other people and we say, well, this is the real expert in our field, and I therefore don't want to speak of myself as being an expert. This is the person who really you should be listening to. It's not me. There's somebody else out there who knows a lot more than I do. And this is where we start to minimize ourselves. And this is a strange aspect of the human psychology, where we look at other people and we are judging by what we might call the external results. We see that someone has a book. We see that someone is regularly speaking on national television. We see every time we open social media, we see an advert for a particular person. And so that can allow us in our own internal sense to distort the reality. And then we forget somehow that there's over 8 billion people on this planet. And I just want to remind you, there are 8 billion people. And for many of us, the things that we do, that we actually regularly work in, we are one of a very small number of people who actually have that level of expertise. And there are some people who, within our expertise, they don't really care to speak to that many people. It's not of interest to them. It's not that they are pushing this aside from a moral perspective. It's just that that's not what they want. They don't wish to speak to lots of people about what they do. And so you might find that you're actually one of a very small number of people who will step up and deliver. And so the first part of this is really, do you have any scale around your self-belief? And I'm not talking about here where you just have a lot of bravado and confidence. I'm talking, do you know your stuff? Are you actually competent in your area? in lighting, I don't even have to ask that question because I have presented and delivered the results so many times, having taken so many headshots, sort of shots of interiors of properties that have then gone on to sell on the basis of the photos that I've taken, seeing my corporate headshots on many websites and seeing people giving testimonials about what I do. So many weddings and all of the different types of things that I've photographed over the years that have taught me that actually my lighting is pretty good. Yes, I studied for several years to learn to go at a degree level where I could actually study among my peers, and I could see that what I did was actually at a high level, really, really good, high quality. And having done it for so many years that I don't have to really think about it. I know that what I do because of several people having told me, having got compliments, having people buy my services because of what I do. So I have that belief. But there was a time when I had to work without that belief and I wasn't sure and I didn't know whether anyone would pay me. And then one day you just have to put yourself forward and step into that space. So let's just start off. Are you willing to make that step? That's the first part of the self belief or the belief in the outcome. And so the first thing that I would encourage you to do is to start to get some clarity around, and this is a word that's often thrown out there, get clear, get clarity. But where I would start off is to say, are you willing to do a little bit of work to just understand what's driving you? Why is it that you feel drawn to do this? What is it about you that really, when you deliver what you do, makes you an obvious choice for someone? What is it that makes you the person that these people really can get the most out of working with? Just do some work around that and just be willing. That's the first thing that I want to really help you to understand. Who do you really help? Once you understand some of these and you realize that the word expert doesn't mean that you're in this tiny group of people, but that expertise is quite broad and that very often an area of expertise can itself be subdivided into multiple different levels and areas of confidence. So it's really about just understanding what you do. So if you're going to do lighting and you know that you're great at lighting and understanding lighting, and you can describe lighting in such a way that a person who's never done it before can learn how to do it and grow from you, and you can give them a borrowed confidence, then now we're talking. And it's all about value, and the value isn't from your perspective, it's from their perspective. And so that's the first thing really that we want to start off with. But without a vision, the people perish. And that's a biblical phrase which actually matters more to everyday life than most people might think. Every business that exists today, every invention, every idea, every movement, every change in the human endeavor or human achievement started off as someone's vision, started off as someone just looking into themselves and seeing what images, what ideas, what possibilities are alight in me. And once you start to ask that question a little bit more deeply and you move off of just the bare page and you start writing things down, out comes this wonderful vision. And you don't have to inspire everyone. Here's the funny thing about it. Most of us think everybody needs to be inspired. You only need to inspire a small number of people. Remember, if we keep thinking that we need to impact a huge swath of the world, then we start to put so much pressure on ourselves that we find it very difficult to just imagine it. So let's start off by thinking, I know I can impact a small group of people. And I'm not going to allow the fact that this is currently just a small group of people that I could reach to stop me. But I'm going to build a vision around this so that I can see the bigger picture, that I can dare to dream of the possibilities. So let's start to think about that as a speaker. And I could go so much into this to talk about how we can just engage in small ways. And really what we're doing by the time that we start to engage is we're just looking for people who are like us. People who are probably a little bit further down the journey of the starting point. They are further towards the start than where you are. You're a little bit further down the road. And so the idea is I'm just looking to help those people who are where I was when I really needed this help. And I know that's an oversimplification in some terms, but essentially that's what we're looking to do. So one of the things that when we create great lighting as speakers, and we suddenly feel a sense that it's not the environment anymore. This is not going to stop me. My stage, my background, my place on this little screen, this box that I'm in, isn't going to limit me anymore, because I now have a sense of who I want to talk to, and I've got a vision around this. I can see where this can now go, and I'm going to allow myself to look into that camera, and I'm going to speak to just one or maybe two people, because I don't need to speak to everybody right now. I can just speak to a small number of people. I can even name that person, and I can talk just to them. And so it doesn't feel so bad anymore. It's a bit like having a conversation with a friend, right? Change the energy to be more personal. Take a deep breath and just feel that sense of I can do it. I can speak to other people. We're going to talk back a little bit about boldness again and just say that's willingness, right? Let's be willing to actually just say we're going to do something, and let's keep it on a level that says I'm just going to be willing. I'm going to open the possibility that I can speak to someone on my given topic. And that even if it's just 5 people, well, here's the thing I'm going to do. I'm going to serve those 5 people with a lot more energy. So each of them is going to get more benefit because I'm giving everything that I have. And I'm going to serve them with the authenticity that says, look, I know that I'm only talking to a small audience at the moment, but I care enough about that audience that I'm going to help them to get past that thing that almost stopped me. And if we just get that level of connection and we just get that level of engagement, whose life might we impact today? Who might we help to actually benefit from our desire to be willing and to be bold to step up? Here's another thought. How about we just enjoy the fact that it's a small audience, right? And some of the best speakers on the planet talk fondly about the fact that there was so much less pressure on them when they only were speaking to a small audience. They didn't have to feel the intensity of stepping out and speaking to thousands of people. Being in front of thousands of people, I can tell you, having stood in front of literally hundreds, thousands of people, not hundreds of thousands, I should say, but hundreds and even thousands of people, having delivered at that level before, I can tell you, you are thinking about it a lot more. You're thinking about what you're doing a lot more, because you're realizing that if you do make a mistake, if you do something that's unexpected, or you do, for whatever reason, encounter any challenge, it's amplified, it's magnified, it feels so much bigger. But when you just look at a small audience and you say, you know what, they're here for me. These people really care. They turned up because, even though it's a small number, they turned up for me. Not just me, but for what I have to offer, what benefits I can help them with. And sometimes just knowing that this is a small conversation allows you to be you, allows you to be more free. There's no limitations. You're not trying to prove anything to anybody. You're not having to think, well, how can I up the ante from the last time that I spoke in front of these people? Just feel the value of those people who have turned up and celebrate that connection, because it's going to be much more intense as a connection. If you were doing this in real sort of direct person-to-person communication, you would change the whole energy, the action that you put into every word would matter more, because you're speaking to a smaller number of people, and you really want to land every word in the way that shows these people that you care a lot more. Here's the thing. Whether you're talking to one person or many, what's important is that that's the person who really wants to hear your message. Have you ever had that for yourself, where you have turned up at an event and the person who spoke felt like they were just speaking to you? Have you ever gone on to a platform and listened to something and it just felt like it was just for you? It was made purposely for you. I want you to think about that the next time that you are feeling a little bit worried about speaking to an audience. Just realize that for that person who it connects with, everything was worth it. It was just for that one person. Maybe it's one today, but tomorrow it could be two. Tomorrow after that, it could be doubled, quadrupled, whatever. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you're showing up and you're building a habit of consistency. And the habit is more important at the beginning. The habit of turning up and doing things, even if it's just 2 or 3 people. Yes, your message is bigger than 2 or 3 people, but make sure that it counts for those 2 or 3 people before you start trying to step into bigger opportunities. You know, there's also another famous verse that says that essentially, I'm just going to sum this up and paraphrase it, is that being faithful in small matters, right? Being faithful when things are small and might feel inconsequential means that you can be trusted with bigger and greater opportunities in terms of magnitude. I just want to kind of leave you with that one. So let's ask ourselves a simple question. Are we willing? Are we going to be bold? And interpret the word bold as being willing. Let's take out some of that extra energy out of it that stops us. Are we willing to step up? And what's one small step that you can take this week in order to be able to speak with more willingness to your audience? What's one small step that you can take? Please share that with us in the conversation, the chat, anywhere. That helps us to all learn what benefits you're getting from these presentations. Over the next few days, I'm going to start to get into some of the other tools that I use, such as how to actually use the switches and how to make sure that when we're speaking, we can make the impact that we really want to make. But I just wanted to drop this one in because I know that for many people, this stops them. I want to say thank you very much for dropping in and for listening to what I have to share with you today. For some people, this is going to make a huge difference. For other people, this is going to be, well, Patrick, I have already mastered that. Thank you. It's nice to have a reminder, but I'm kind of past that. That's okay. For those of you who get what you need to get from it, I'm happy for that. And I'll be back in about 24 more hours, and I'm looking forward to sharing some more ideas with you. Thank you. I appreciate those of you who, whether you watch live or whether you watch after the fact, I'm so grateful that you're giving up the most valuable thing that you have on this planet, which is your time. I appreciate you sharing this with me and learning from me. And I look forward to serving you in another, say, 24 hours or so. But as always, I leave you in peace. See you soon.